Production support for award-winning News 6 has come from Atlas Crankshaft Corporation, Cummins Engine Foundation. Additional support has come from the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation and this public television station.
Hi, we're the 6th grade classes of St. Joseph's School, home of the Spartans. Welcome to News 6.
This week on News 6, we'll visit Tiffin's oldest family business. We'll learn the interesting history behind a unique Tiffin restaurant, and we'll talk to a Tiffin man about his engraving craft.
Hi, I'm Olivia Disto from St. Joseph's School in Tiffin. Welcome to News 6. With our first story, here's Jill Free. Wagner Floral Company is Tiffin's oldest family-run business. We visited the company to see what kept it alive for so long.
5 generations have been part of the Wagner Floral Company. Since its beginnings in the 1860s, Wagner's has seen a lot of changes.
What is the history of the floral company?
There's been greenhouses on this property for about 100 years. My great-grandfather built smaller greenhouses than this, and we raised mostly vegetables. And then in the early 1900s, before the First World War, some of these greenhouses that we're in right now were built about that time. And at that time they switched over to the flower business and began raising flowers and selling flowers here. At that time was my grandfather and his brother-in-law, and they maintained the company until my dad and his uncles and aunts were incorporated into the business about the time that they would come back from the First World War. So we started in business officially in 1957, but I had worked here since 1946 when I came back from the service. There are 3 original greenhouses up here, and then there were 2 more added in the back in the 1920s. And then there's another range out in the back that you're familiar with 2 or 3 big greenhouses, and they were built around 1965, 69, and in 1980. But we continue to, so far, we continue to add buildings and structures and increase the plant production. The current production here is all geared to pot plants and bedding plants and spring growing plants primarily. We maintain a flower shop business in the buildings in the front here, but most of the flowers now, the cut flowers, as is the case with most cut flower greenhouse business these days, are grown in other sections of the world and flown in here.
What's kept the business alive for so long?
Every generation has had some part of the family that's become interested in it and addicted to it. It's kind of an addictive business.
This week's News 6 is produced by the 6th grade classes of St. Joseph's School in Tiffin. Tiffin is located about 20 miles east of Findlay. It was founded in 1835 and has a population of about 19,570.
Tiffin's Pioneer Mill is listed on the National Register of Historic Places for its unusual history. After News 6 visited the restaurant, we learned why.
With such a rich history, the Pioneer Mill is more than just a place to eat. It's a step into the past.
Mr. Love, what kind of history has the Pioneer Mill seen?
The Pioneer Mill has actually seen most of the history of Tiffin. It was originally built in 1822 by Hosea Hedges, who was the founder of Tiffin. This was the first building in the community. He built this mill, a house across the street, and the dam. And that was the beginning of the entire community. The mill's been in continuous operation since then. It had a major fire in 1865, at which time it was rebuilt with brick instead of the original wood. And then in 1921, they added the carriage house next door. And in 1937, they had another fire that burned off the third floor and the back of the building. Then they rebuilt it. They left off the third floor. And then in 1950, they quit using it as a mill and started renting it out as other types of buildings or other types of businesses. And finally in 1973, a group of men here in town decided they wanted to make it into a restaurant. So they remodeled it, reconstructed part of it, and opened as the Pioneer Mill Restaurant in 1974. The restaurant's full of a lot of unique features and has a lot of artifacts or old pieces of equipment that date from the times of being a mill. But probably one of the more fun things to look at are the generators. The water wheels still work, and they're down underneath the building, and we generate electricity with them.
Why is it important to preserve a mill like this?
It's important to keep touch with your history. The mill represents the beginning of a whole community, of a whole city. And if it was just destroyed, then that whole beginning would be gone.
Kids View lets the kids of New 6 say what's on their minds. Here's TJ San Gregory with this week's question.
Hi, I'm TJ San Gregory, and I'm standing in front of St. Joseph's School. And today's Kids View question is, if you could go anywhere into the world, where would you go? How about you, ma'am?
I would like to go to Germany because my grandparents, my aunt, and my uncle live there.
And how about you?
I like to go to Australia to see all the animals that live there.
And where would you go?
I like to go to the Philippines because that's where I'm originally from.
And that wraps it up for today's Kids View question.
While Hubert Elkert doesn't practice his craft of glass engraving regularly, he showed New 6 he still has what it takes to be called a craftsman.
Mr. Elkert has been engraving glass for 43 years. He showed New 6 the skill and patience he uses to practice his unique craft.
How did you learn the craft of glass engraving?
Well, it was a 4-year apprenticeship under the GI Bill, and took a long time to learn it. You had to learn to turn your stones, sharpen stones, and what size stones to use for what kind of job. All the different designs took different stones, maybe 3, 4, 5 to 6 different stones on a glass for different operations. Now this is how they used to make drapes. I haven't done that for quite a while.
What kinds of products do you make?
Well, when I worked on the job regular years back, they put flowers and different designs on all kind of stemware, tumblers, finger bowls and dishes, candlesticks. Oh, sometimes I use still some of them same designs that we got out there. Sometimes I make a wedding gift for somebody or a gift or so. That's about all I do. Now here you put the fern.
What satisfaction do you get from your craft?
Well, it's relaxing in a way. It's just to see if I can still do it. See what kind of design I can put on yet.
That's all for this week. Join us next time when News 6 travels to Defiance, Ohio.
Production support for award-winning News 6 has come from Atlas Crankshaft Corporation, Cummins Engine Foundation. Additional support has come from the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation and this public television station.